Hello and welcome to 5.16. This is called aquaculture. And aquaculture is a very interesting thing. It's kind of like agriculture, but it's in the water. And instead of having to do with plants, it has to do with fish. So we are going to describe both the benefits and drawbacks of aquaculture, and both are equal, good and bad. And the fact that aquaculture has expanded because it is extremely efficient. We'll talk about that. And you only need a very small amount of water and a little bit of fuel in order to get a lot of fish. However, the drawbacks are, with this super high concentration, there will be a lot of wastewater contamination. Some fish can escape, and you say to yourself, well, who cares about that? But when they get out, they may compete and or breed with the wild fish, which could lead to problems moving forward in the wild fish population. And unfortunately, they may carry with them some diseases that maybe they picked up in their captivity. So let's take a look at them. This, once again, is a very short section. Aquaculture benefits. Why would we do it? We do it because fish, we are overfishing the crapola out of the oceans. So raising fish or other aquatic species can be easily done in enclosures underwater. You only need a very little bit of water for this to occur in, very little bit of space, and a little bit of fuel to keep them going. It's basically just maybe move the water around with some pumps or in creating the food for them. The help on the fishery collapse. You are reducing the risk of a fishery collapse in your local area. And it takes up zero land space. So we got a lot of ocean space, zero land, like it would for pork, chicken, or beef. So basically the way it works is you have this kind of cage, sort of like a giant fish tank. And you can do it with fish. You can do it with shellfish. You could do it with seaweeds, anything that you can kind of grow in the water. As long as you kind of set it up, it'll work out well. And you can also do it for bottom vertebrates. So there are lots of ways to do what is called aquaculture. But like everything else, there are some drawbacks. When you have so many animals, such a high density in such a concentrated area, there is a lot of waste. And we learned that waste from animals could have a lot of nitrogen base in the urea of it, which could lead to eutrophication, that kind of algal bloom, and then that rapid decomposition and decreasing of the dissolved oxygen, which could ultimately kill the fish. And also E. coli, which is a bacteria which could get into and infect the local area. The high density also increases disease risk, and that could be transmitted throughout the population as well as other fish, including some other problems that could come along with this are parasites, such as sea lice. They may introduce non-native species or GMOs in a local ecosystem. And you're like, what? So sometimes these fish may have GMOs. They may be GMOs, and their DNA may not be compatible. But when they mate with the fish on the outside, that could mess up the local species. And of course, if they escape, they could outcompete the local species. Even if they're not the same species of fish, whatever's living there, the one that was grown can outcompete the local fish. So again, major drawbacks. And like the animals on land, the fish are fed antibiotics. And those antibiotics can contaminate the water. It can lead to other bacterial resistant strains, which we have even seen so far in our population. So big deal on that. And you can see here the environmental risks. Once all of this stuff, you can have the escape of the fish. You could have disease. You could have parasites. There is just going to be tons of waste, tons of sewage, pathogens and such. All of these things that go into the fish, these non-native fish are introduced different kind of chemicals, drugs, herbicides. If you're doing any kind of growing of, you don't want any extra algae messing up your growth process. And of course, it could hurt your predators. So there is a lot of risk, but it's all about, as you know, the almighty dollar. And if we can raise fish quickly and inexpensively and get it to market, we're going to do it. So that is the quick hit on aquaculture. So just identify one advantage over regular net fishing and one environmental consequence of aquaculture. So again, quick hit, and hopefully that was helpful.